So, as I'm sure you know, today is the launch of Anne-Marie's manifesto for UKIP Leadership. It's a fantastic manifesto. We've shared it online today, and I hope all of you will be sharing it on your social media feeds. I've known Anne-Marie now for some years. I'm proud to call her a friend and a colleague. She's one of the bravest women I know, and she will be the next leader of UKIP. Yeah.
Hello. Move this a little bit. Anything?
How's that?
No? Anything? I can't hear myself in my ear like I could last time. Do we need it?
We've
Do
got
we
something
need
coming
it?
out.
Yes, it's on. Yeah.
It's on. It's on. Okay, I can hear it now. It sounds like an earpiece to me, which is strange because there's nothing in my ear. Well, thank you both very, very much. I really am very grateful, and I'm particularly grateful because I know how difficult this is. I know how much pressure is on members across the party, and particularly elected members. So I am truly, truly grateful for your support. It means the world to me. Thank you to Jack for organising all of this and for keeping me together and sane through this. We've only just begun, by the way, so I hope you've got lots of energy. And thank you to Caelan and Rob as well for helping me film, as they always do. Most of all, thank you to you. I'm hearing some very uncomfortable stories about people not wanting to come and hear from me because of pressures inside the party. So I do understand this, and trust me, I'm feeling a lot of pressure myself. I've literally only this minute found out about this NEC decision-making process. So I'm not optimistic about that, the outcome of that. But let's keep going and pretend it didn't happen. I shall pretend I didn't hear it, and we'll carry on regardless. I'm very good at doing that. I'm very good at pretending I didn't hear that and carrying on regardless. It's part of why I'm still standing after all this time. I want to start by answering a question I've been asked this week, is why Rotherham? Why did you come to launch this campaign in Rotherham? And to be very clear, I have no game here. I'm not playing any games. I don't have coming to Rotherham today is not a strategy of mine. I came to Rotherham because for 2 years of my life, I was completely immersed in a terrible, terrible crime that has been happening across this country and is still happening across this country right now. And during that process, I discovered just how abandoned large swathes of people are in this country. Abandoned by police, abandoned by local government, abandoned by social services. And they're abandoned for political reasons, because it's no longer politically correct to have simple law enforcement and basic justice and fairness in a society. And over the time that I spent writing my report, I wrote a report on the so-called grooming gang phenomenon in this country. Rotherham became a place that became quite close to my heart. It became very symbolic to me, a symbol of A, the terrible crimes that have been committed all over this country, but B, the abandonment of people while suffering these crimes. And it influenced me hugely as to what kind of political message I wanted to hear from a political party. And I wasn't hearing it, and I'm still not hearing it. And my decision essentially was, well, if nobody else is saying it, then I'll have to say it. Yeah. So this brings me to the first of my very clear offers I think UKIP should make from whoever the new leader should be. Should it be me, this is the offer I will make. And it is, political parties should never offer the world. They shouldn't offer the world. They shouldn't pretend and lie to the electorate and say we can solve all your problems within one parliament. What you do is you pick principles and primary areas that you can and will change. You have to make consistent, clear, basic offers and not tell everyone you're going to solve all their problems. So the first offer I think UKIP needs to make to the British electorate, and it is one that no other political party will make, and it is quite simply law and order. We must be the law and order party. We must offer this as a priority, and we are the only ones that will do it. We will make, and we must make, the police and the Crown Prosecution Services accountable to the British public. We cannot have it that a girl can go to the police and say, I've been raped, and the police do nothing at all. Now, we're not even just talking about not bringing prosecutions, but police doing nothing at all. And I've met many girls over the times I was researching this where that had happened. Now, no explanation is offered to the public when this occurs. No, we're never told, why didn't you go and investigate that crime? I will simply get throwaway comments about evidence, but no one ever explains to us what the evidential problems were. I also have encountered people who did have a case, and we saw it again in the Three Girls documentary, which I don't know if you watched. If you haven't, I recommend that you do. Underage girls with semen in their underwear, telling the police they've been raped, telling the police who raped them, and years later that same man is still standing on the streets, is still walking the streets and still raping girls, and the CPS has nothing to say about it. So here's a policy number one. We must set up a transparent system of accountability so that senior police officers and senior people within the Crown Prosecution Service will pay with their jobs if they do not do those jobs. And that job is to give justice to the victims of crime in this country. That to me is non-negotiable. That to me is a primary requirement of a public and a primary duty of a government to provide. We must provide the first of these, which is safety, and we can only do that with a police force that knows what that is all about, that knows what justice is all about. When you have limited resources, what do? You prioritise. You prioritise. We must change our justice system entirely so that we have crimes which are prioritised over other crimes. When you have resources, you need a common sense priority. So how it can be that offensive tweets have resources when rape doesn't is absolutely unacceptable. We must also, and here's something that no other party really will do, we must challenge and oppose the findings of the Macpherson inquiry that followed the murder of Stephen Lawrence. This is a policy proposal of mine. We have to openly challenge it. The conclusions of that inquiry were that colour-blind policing must be outlawed. That's how they put it. I say the absolute opposite, and that colour-blind policing is exactly what we need, and we will settle for nothing less. One law, every race, every religion subject to it. No, no. We must offer stability in public life. People must feel safe. And another area, another key offer that UKIP has to make is to bring stability to migration. We had, and we have to put this right at the top because it has fallen off the radar. Immigration has fallen off the radar. And it is a fundamental key point that UKIP must prioritise and push with everything we have. 2016, net migration to this country was 248,000 people. That is 248,000 extra people in the UK in 1 year alone. This is unsustainable. This is absurd. We don't have 248,000 extra jobs. We don't have enough roads or houses for 248,000 people, but we do have 248,000 people. This cannot continue. Millions have come to this country in the last couple of decades, and it affects absolutely everything. It affects everything. Let me just quickly look at housing as an example. When I was a parliamentary candidate in 2015, the hustings that I went to, I was the only person ever at any of them to talk about demand for housing. Other political parties want to talk about the housing crisis without ever talking about demand. They will talk about supply, but they won't talk about demand. And they won't talk about demand because it means they can't signal their virtue when you talk about demand. Talking about demand for housing takes you into an uncomfortable place where you have to talk about the numbers coming into your country. You cannot supply continuous, endless housing. It is absurd. Oh, not only that, but of course what happens is basic economics, which in my experience other parliamentary candidates didn't seem to understand. When you have a rise in demand without a matching supply, what happens? The cost of housing goes up and up and up. We have situations now where you can have two professionals in a family and they can't afford to buy, especially in London. You must bring stability to the housing market, and place number one is demand. You have to control demand first. This is the first thing that immigration massively affects. And the second thing, same thing, basic economics, supply and demand, the jobs market. Oversupply of labour will push down wages and push back conditions. This is common sense. And our offer to the British people must be that we will protect the jobs of British citizens first. When our immigration policy will be that we will only take people that are needed, we will only take people where there is a shortage, and we will not allow unlimited competition to arrive in the country to undermine British workers. This is our other core. Now, the welfare state. Now, I support the welfare state. I believe in a compassionate society where if you genuinely cannot work and you genuinely fall on hard times and you've done your bit and you've paid your bit and you suddenly need help, I believe as a country we should help each other. It's part of what makes us a country. It's part of what makes us Britain. Is that we have each other's backs in times when times get difficult. However, there is nothing good about a life lived on benefits. Nothing. It's terrible for the individual, it's bad for confidence, it's bad for health, and it's terribly, terribly bad for society. I do believe we need a complete overhaul of the welfare state. I believe its priority should be getting people into work. And I don't accept this argument that we need immigrants because the English won't do it. Well, what are we talking about? Why is that just accepted? And then we'll bring half the world here because the English won't do the jobs. What jobs are we talking about? Why aren't they doing them? Let's talk about that before we bring half the world here to do the jobs apparently the English won't do. It's absurd. It's a complete cop-out. We need a complete overhaul of the welfare state, and with an emphasis not only in working and in welfare, but across the board, an emphasis on personal responsibility. Whatever happened to personal responsibility? Whatever happened to your duty to stand up and make your own contribution to society? I want this taught in schools. I want it emphasised in the welfare state. I want a return to personal... I don't want anyone tarred and feathered, but I do want people held responsible for what they do, and that means getting a job and standing on your own feet. Now, immigration also quite clearly affects the NHS. Now, I have worked in for many years and campaigned for the NHS for many years. It was actually one of where I started in politics, was as an NHS campaigner. And I believe very strongly in the NHS, and it brings me back to what I was talking about, a country supporting each other in really hard times. I'm a free market. I believe in the free market. I believe in as little regulation as possible of the free market. However, I do see, from a moral perspective, and this is just a personal opinion, that healthcare is distinct and should... I have no problem with private healthcare. If people want to have private healthcare, that's up to them. But healthcare, to me, is like police and the fire service and other essential public services. And I think if there's anything that people are willing to pay taxes for and have when they desperately need it, it's the NHS. It needs to be protected. This is from my own principled position, from my own moral position, but also from a political position. Any party seen to be against the NHS will really, really struggle politically. And I think part of something I heard actually frequently in the past for UKIP was concern about leadership wanting to privatise the NHS. Well, here's one distinct offer I can make you as leader. I will never entertain privatising or getting rid of the NHS. And this is I simply don't want a society where people can be left to suffer in pain because they haven't got enough money. I don't want that society. But we must be honest about the NHS. And from years of working in it, I know what the problems are. Waste and mismanagement is extraordinarily high in the NHS. The mismanagement comes partly in terms of over-management. You will get thousands upon thousands of new managers hired over a 10-year period in the NHS, while nurses are being dropped. These are common sense reforms. So like the welfare state, the NHS needs a full reform, and we will offer it. We will offer a priority on the NHS, but not business as usual on the NHS. We will be a party that offers full reform of the NHS with full commitment to the ideals of the NHS. A clear message which will go down well with a vast number of our voters. My second promise up here is prosperity. Part of how we do this is through decent health, decent housing. You can't get very far without either of those. But top of the list, and here's our next core offer, is decent education. A decent education is absolutely key. But we need a complete cultural shift in education. Like we need a cultural shift in the police, we need one in education as well. We need to get back to basics in education. We need to encourage excellence. We should abolish tuition fees for certain degrees in order to do so, to offer aspiration to children and a chance at achieving. In schools, we will not allow the National Union of Teachers to decide to disregard British culture as they have done. We will have a national curriculum that teaches liberty, democracy, gender equality and British values, and we will do it regardless of objections of the left-wing National Union of Teachers. Our children deserve to be taught properly. They need to get their literature, mathematics, sciences right, and the languages, and the private lives and politics of the teachers can stay at home. They are not political indoctrination. But we also need a very honest and very difficult discussion about immigration and culture. And this needs, to me, to be a Europe-wide conversation. Europe is simply transforming beyond all recognition in front of our eyes. 20 years ago, I backpacked through Germany on my own. I never felt unsafe. There's not a chance I would backpack through Germany today on my own. Not a chance. If you look at France, no-go areas, terrible, terrible things. Sweden may deny its officialdom, may deny the rape crisis, but it's real. So we need to talk about this from a European, from a Western world's perspective. We're losing the Western world. And that's why I think we need to start talking to allies across Europe about bringing down the European Union, the entire thing. Not just Brexit, bring down the entire thing. We need to decide, who are we? Europeans need to decide, who are we? And we, the British, need to decide, who are we? You need to stop and take a breath. After so many years of such incredibly fast change, we no longer know who we are in this country. The British people are confused about their identity, about who this country is. So I think we ought to offer a British constitution, a written British constitution, because when we get out of this awful EU, we have a chance for a fresh start. We have a chance to catch our breath, gather ourselves, and start again as Britain. So my British constitution will be a combination of the Magna Carta and the Magna Carta and the other, combined with modern advancements in terms of human and civil rights, we can make take the best of the old and the best of the new and put it together and come up with a fantastic British constitution to which all laws will be subject. But as I said, the EU, this is where our approach to Brexit should be, to my mind. I think we need a completely new approach to Brexit. The only thing that is going to make Brexit happen now, because we know that the political class is against it, across the board, the House of Commons is full of Remainers. The only thing that's going to stop them derailing Brexit is public opinion. The only thing that's going to stop it. They will throw the kitchen sink now at trying to persuade the public not to leave the EU. And they will do their very best. So we must have a message for the public that outranks their message. And I think it's talking plainly about what the EU actually is. The EU was designed to neutralise the vote of the people of the member states. It was designed for that. It is the ultimate in top-down, heavy government, unelected bureaucracy, and national governments are now simply pawns used to put into place the desires of the EU. The parties in this country, and across member states in fact, but we really need to go for the parties in this country who are open about wanting a second referendum. Let us tell the public in plain English what those parties are saying. You didn't make the right decision. We know best. How dare you defy us? We will do whatever we can, and we'll do it in front of you because we've got no shame, to completely overturn your decision. They hold the electorate in contempt, and they show it every time they demand a second referendum. They show their contempt for you and for I and for the democratic process. And this is the EU. This is what the EU does. How many referendums are in Ireland, in the Netherlands, in France? Just completely ignored. They will do exactly the same thing with Brexit unless we speak in plain English to what these people are. It is a tyranny. It is an internationalist tyranny which seeks to subjugate the peoples of Europe, and it will. One thing we need to get very, very clear with the EU's, to get home to people, because a lot of people I don't think will necessarily understand how dangerous it is to live in a country where you have no say. And particularly if the governance is making decisions that you quite like. And I think that's happening a lot with the EU, is they're making decisions that people don't particularly mind. So they're not that fussed about it. Well, what happens if they bring 10 million people from Africa and you have no say about it? That's when people will start to realise how important their say is. And that's the kind of message we need to send home. We also need to bring the EU here. We need to bring it to people's everyday lives. It affects everything. It affects their dustbin collection. It costs us a fortune, but we can't focus only on facts and figures. We need to talk about our ability to govern ourselves and the ability of our local council even to decide, make decisions on our rubbish collection. This is the kind of tyranny we are dealing with. That needs to be driven home, and very clearly and very seriously, and people need to understand the seriousness with it, and we can do that. We can do that. I also think that Brexit policy in detail should be decided by the party itself. And this brings me to the party, to UKIP. This party must change. It really must change. And I will offer that change. I am appalled, frankly, by the fact that I have been sidelined and demonised for a long, long time in this party. But I've kept standing my ground, and I will continue to stand my ground. But some of the offers I want to make, because I hear it from UKIP members all the time, and I have experienced it myself, just pretending you don't exist. They treat people like they don't exist. This has got to go. The leadership of UKIP will start to be accountable to the membership of UKIP, and I will put in place an ability for UKIP members to have access to the spokespeople. I will oblige spokespeople to respond, but furthermore, at UKIP conferences, which are simply speeches. I don't know how many of you have been to a UKIP conference, but it's simply a speech. I want UKIP members to come, to debate, and to vote on key policies. It's not enough that UKIP members are told what the manifesto will be, which is what always happens. They must be asked what the manifesto should be. So let me, before I finish, let me address the bits that I'm sure some of you are waiting for me to address. All this stuff for housing and NHS, when's she going to talk about Islam? I'll talk about it now. First of all, let me just, because this is going to be the main attack on me throughout this leadership campaign, this is going to be attack number one. She's a single issue loon, is how one person has described me. It's not true. I started out in politics, as I said, on the NHS. My earliest days, I've been in politics about 20 years or so. My earliest days were spent on things like the NHS, on women's rights, on, I guess, law and order I've always cared about. But I didn't discover this issue until I was a law student in my mid-20s. And part of the reason that I focused less on other issues was because nobody was focusing on this one. There are a lot of things you can feel passionately about, but you only have so much energy and so much time in the day to campaign. So when I saw A, the seriousness of this issue, and B, the fact that it was being made 10 times more serious by the fact that the mainstream wouldn't address it, and when they did address it, it was with PC nonsense that nobody actually believed. So this is part of why I've come to this with the force that I have. Why do I talk about Islam so much? Well, first of all, it's my job. I run an organisation called Sharia Watch UK. So I'd be pretty bad at it if I wasn't talking about Islam. I tweet about Islam for the same reason, but I also tweet about Islam because people come to me for that. They come to me looking for that information. And again, this is not, the stories I send out are not to be found in the mainstream media in every other place. So we must, those of us who know and care about this, share this information. So that's why I'm focused on this. It's my job as leader of a group that focuses on it. But to describe it as a single issue, I find really rather disgusting. It dismisses the concerns of millions of people in this country, and it tells me that the person saying it doesn't actually have the courage to admit or acknowledge or face up to how profoundly serious this issue is. And in order to, disguise the lack of courage in even admitting there's a problem, instead go on the attack and demonise those of us who will. So here's the single issue. I've talked about law and order. That's in there. Terrorism. We've had 3 terror attacks in this country in the space of a few months. And what was extraordinary to me was that the general election was held only days after one of them, and it didn't seem to feature. It didn't seem to feature. You would think, with 3 deadly terror attacks in the space of 3 months leading up to a general election, you'd think it would feature highly. It scarcely featured at all. And we all know why. Because talking about it's not politically correct. We will talk about it. I will talk about it. And I will talk about what drives the people who do it. It isn't alienation or social exclusion. It isn't our fault at all. It is religiously driven. This is what I will say. It's what I've said all along, and I will continue to say it because it's the truth. Another part of this single issue is the completely barbaric practices we have imported. I am not happy to have FGM in this country. I'm not happy. Apostate violence is another joy we have imported to Britain. I know ex-Muslims on the run for their lives in this country, born here, raised here, and yet if they question Islam, they're on the run for their lives. I've met many of them. This is an unacceptable situation. We're supposed to be a free country. That's not a small issue. Religious intimidation is becoming enormous. And you saw it, again, by the fact that we had to change our venue for today. Intimidation for anyone who will speak, is caused by the fact that we're speaking about religion. Now, I don't know why religious views or religious opinions are so much more precious than other opinions. I don't know why we go out of our way to protect the sensitivities of this religion, but not the children that are being harmed by it. I will not in any way prioritise being sensitive religiously or culturally. I will prioritise the people who are being harmed by this cultural and religious sensitivity. And I make no ifs or buts about it. I want to be clear. There will be no religious or cultural sensitivity if children are being raped and mutilated. That's what I care about. And I don't care But if people are worried about the political fallout of this, nonsense. Much of the country is behind us. There is an enormous constituency out there just waiting for someone to talk about this. And it's not enough to have policies if you're going to try and sell them as nothing to do with Islam. The public knows perfectly well that it has everything to do with Islam. And until you say so, you've lost all trust. You've lost all confidence. They're not going to listen to you. So the policy falls, and that's exactly what went wrong the last time. So here's what I want to change. Now, I've no doubt that other candidates in this race will talk about this issue. We'll dance around it. We will have tiny minorities of Islamist extremists, no doubt mentioned a lot. Nothing to do with the religion. It's only a perversion of the faith. Not all Muslims is another one. This is the kind of stuff that will come out. So let me make clear my message on this. Of course, not all Muslims are involved in these terrible things. This, to me, goes without saying. One would think that people would have enough common sense and decency to assume that we're not talking about all Muslims. Of course, it's not all Muslims. But it doesn't have to be all Muslims for there to be a major problem. We have a problem here. And no amount of not all Muslims is going to change. Another thing I want to see is the throwaway comments that we hear. Like from Theresa May in Parliament. This is a perversion of a great faith. Very matter-of-factly stated by the Prime Minister inside our Parliament. Unacceptable. It is unacceptable for her to make that statement. We have not debated whether or not this is a perversion of a great faith. Nobody has gone through the scriptures with us to tell us what the scriptures are actually saying. Nobody has taken us through the apparent nuances of these scriptures. There is no public debate at all of Islamic scripture. That's the change I want to make. People have a right to know the truth. If these things are written, if these terrible things are written in Islamic scripture, and they are, the public needs to know that. And they need to know it because they need to have the full information to make future decisions around this. We cannot keep lying to the public and then wondering why they make the decisions they make. They're making them because they're being lied to constantly. So we must talk about the Islamic scriptures, and we must be honest about it with the public, about what they say. Now, I've got that. We can talk about context and interpretation until the cows come home afterwards, but I want the public to see what is written in this book, and then let people make up their own mind. And the second one I want to do is to challenge statistics. I hear regularly. And this is one that really gets me into trouble. This is the one that gets me. You may be wondering which one is the one that most gets her into trouble. It's this one. You will find, if you can have a table, you can have a room full of people discussing this issue. And whilst they will admit there's a problem, I mean the Greens will admit there's a problem. It's just the nature of the problem that people won't admit. So if you had a room full of people and you were talking about this, you would get full agreement on it's only a tiny minority of extremists. I saw an interview just a couple of days ago on YouTube with, I think, Hazel Blears and Douglas Murray. And she said, very matter-of-factly, that we know that the vast majority of the world's Muslims don't agree with any of these things, and all shook their heads in agreement. And I can guarantee you get a room full of people, and no matter how concerned they'd be, as someone said, yes, but only a tiny minority of Muslims actually support this stuff, everyone would nod in agreement. Now, I don't nod in agreement at all. I want to know who you're talking about. Are you talking about a vast majority or a tiny minority of British Muslims? Are you talking about globally? And what exactly do you say they object to? So let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Pakistan, Afghanistan, let's take those two. Massive, massive immigration into Europe from both Pakistan and Afghanistan. The figures supporting Sharia law in both of those countries are above 90%. The figures who support the horrific elements of Sharia law, stonings, lashings, the works, are above 80%. So we are bringing masses of people into Europe from these two countries, and that's just the start, where people are so completely diametrically opposed to us that they actually believe in the 80s and 90% that if a woman got pregnant outside of marriage, she should be buried in the ground and stoned to death. In the 80s and 90%. And yet, what we tell, matter-of-factly, tiny minority of extremists, nothing to worry about. Keep the borders open, keep coming. No, it's not a tiny minority of extremists at all, and I want the truth. And just one final point to allay any concerns about whether the British public is on our side. We've got two remarkable statistics, both 47%, perhaps it was the same 47%, but both 47 believe Islam is completely incompatible with British culture, and the same 47%, which I find extraordinary, want to ban immigration from Muslim countries. Now, I'm not saying we should propose that as a policy, but we definitely need to discuss it, because if 47% of the public want something, it is our duty to look seriously into it and to talk about the impact immigration has already had. Now, we're not talking about one or two individuals running for their lives. We're talking about mass movement of millions of people. It's not a few people running for their lives. We're talking about a population shift from one country into a completely incompatible other country. It has got to stop. I have very little doubt, and I kind of alluded to this a bit earlier, that the other candidates in this will say very similar things to me. We all members of the same party, of course. I've no doubt we have similar views on the welfare state, on the economy, on housing, and other issues. So why would you pick me as your leader? Well, first of all, because I'm the only one who's going to talk about this in the way that I just have. That I can guarantee you, the only one. But secondly, I will bring difference. I will bring change. No, I honestly don't see any of the rest. I mean no insult to any of them, but I've got to be honest and frank here. I honestly don't see any of the rest of them sparking any fires anywhere. And I'm sorry to say, but Guardians of Brexit is not going to excite the British public either. You have got to be something. You've got to stand out. You've got to be unique. And when UKIP was the only party that opposed the EU, which is shocking. It's shocking to have a parliament with the three biggest parties, all of them gung-ho on the same issue, in the same direction on one issue. Like UKIP was the only one to say, no, not having the EU, we must be the only ones to say, hang on a minute, let's talk about this religion itself. Why are you dismissing the religion? That, we will excite people with this. I promise you that. People are already joining the party because I'm standing. Now, that's not because I'm fabulous, it's because this issue is important to people. And I can guarantee you that if I become the leader, the membership will go up, because there is a silent mass in this country with absolutely no one speaking to them, and I will do that. And I can do it in a way that I'm sorry to say the others can't. I have a feel about what's out there. I have a feel about what people think. And I have a feel about it because I am people. I don't come from, I come from a working class background. I worked my way through university waitressing and working as a barmaid. I worked in the NHS. I've never been part of the party elite or the media bubble or the Westminster bubble. I am simply not a part of it. And that, for that reason, I have not lost all connection with reality. People in the Westminster bubble, and I'm sorry to say I include UKIP at this point, have simply lost all connection with reality because they're not living in it. They live with mainstream journalists, and they've convinced themselves this is all they speak to. They do events like this, and the only people they speak to outside of the party are mainstream journalists. And this becomes the world to them. And they believe so wrongly that public opinion is represented by the mainstream media. Nothing could be further from the truth. And just as I will stand up to whatever the UKIP hierarchy will throw at me throughout this campaign, and I will keep going, I will stand up as leader to the mainstream media, and whatever slurs they throw, I will hit them back every single time. I am tired of the nonsense. I'm tired of the smears, I'm tired of the slurs, I'm tired of the lies. I will stand firm. I've been doing it for years. They have thrown every bit of abuse at me, and I'll take it. I've taken it, and I'll continue to take it. I will ignore all of it and speak to the British people. And I will make them trust me, because they will trust me. And the reason they'll trust me is because I mean it. I mean everything I'm saying. I think it's clear that I mean everything I'm saying. And I love this country with every ounce of my soul. I'm not in this for a career. I never wanted a political career. This is not, I don't care. I've got nothing to lose in all of this. I'm not looking for a big career. I won't toe the line. I won't do what I'm told. I won't be bought off or tone it down. I will not. If I was going to, I would have done it by now. And the fact that I won't and that I haven't is what will make the British electorate trust me. That is what we will get to. I know it's a big ask. I know that I'm asking the members for a lot. I know that I'm asking you to put trust in me to carry out an enormous task. I know how difficult it will be. I know how much opposition I've got. I know how much the media and the political elite will attack, and I'm ready for it. And don't think that I haven't considered and thought to myself how enormous it will be, the biggest personal and career challenge of my life. And the question I've asked myself is whether I believe I am able to stand up to the plate and take on this enormous task. And my answer is yes, I am. I'm ready and I'm willing, and I will do what I say I'm going to do. Thank you. Should we take a few questions? It's quick. Okay.
Anne-Marie, the last time I heard you speak in Sheffield, I think I asked you the question, why is this party afraid of the truth? I'm pleased to hear you say that you're not, and you're going to take that forward.
I'm not afraid of
the truth cannot hurt anybody, no matter what their beliefs.
Absolutely.
And I would like, if I could ask you, under law and order, I'm not talking about radical Islamism here, under law and order, I'd like you to bring into your concept of what you're going to do about that, to get rid of these damn politically elected police crime commissioners who are not fit for purpose. They're getting paid crazy money for making huge mistakes. Yeah.
And I'm doing very little from what I can see. I don't see what a massive impact it's made, to be honest with you. So I agree. We'll have a look at that, and I'm more than happy to make a policy. But I think the party should make a policy. So, but I agree with you. More than happy with that. Hi. No, you. Hi.
I was going to just say that UKIP at the moment are in a mess. We're in a total mess. And we have got to win the battle within the party before we can win the battle nationally. There is no doubt about that in my mind.
Agreed.
So, with that in mind, can I ask you, if you're elected as leader, who are you going to ask? Who are you going to appoint as chairman, and who are you going to appoint as deputy leader?
I don't. I need to think about that one. Catherine Blakelock is who I have in mind for chairman, and Peter Whittle is who I'd have in mind for deputy leader. But those are just who I have in mind. It's not. It's a difficult question to answer. So soon into the campaign. As for the party being a mess, look, I know how difficult this is going to be. If I'm elected leader, there will be chaos initially. People will be terrified. But look, it'll blow over. It'll blow over. What we will have, I think, once, part of the problem is people's misconception about me. I think once they actually understand that I'm not offering anything crazy, that actually what I'm offering is sane and sensible, and the only thing that I'm doing wrong is criticising a religion and questioning a religion. Once they see, I think some people will never back me and never get behind me. I accept that. But I think once a lot of the party sees, A, that I'm not a crazy neo-fascist, as I was described in a national paper, and nor have they got anything to be afraid of. They will see quickly how much public support our positions, including our position on Islam, will have. And they will see very quickly that they've been afraid of nothing, that I actually can lead this, that I actually can reach the British people and bring them to UKIP, and that they will calm down. On a personal level, I don't hold grudges, I don't have gripes, I don't get involved in gossips or squabbles. There will be none of this with me. So whoever wants to get behind me, I will welcome, no matter what past or whatever disagreements we've had. Whoever wants to get behind me will be welcome, while I appreciate that others will never get behind me. But it's something I'm confident I can steer us through by just being clear about the message and showing people there's nothing to worry about. Stop panicking. The public is actually with us.
UKIP members are not scared of anything, in my view and my experience of them. They're scared of nothing. It's not about being scared. UKIP, so far, has been a complete dictatorship. They do
I'm
not
talking
listen,
about the top.
They do not listen to anyone else's view.
Yeah.
They think they always know best,
do.
and we don't get a say in anything at all.
Like the EU.
That has to change, and if it doesn't, UKIP will fall apart.
I absolutely agree. I want people to be able to debate and vote on major key policy areas. We can't have votes on every little thing, because we never do anything else. But we can have a question, a yes or no question on a major policy area to put to the members. This is right. This is right. These are the people who go out and in the rain putting stuff through letterbox. They have absolutely every right to a say. And I think the dismissal, and we've seen it again now with the elite in the party, this dismissal of the concerns of vast numbers of this party and vast numbers of the public is indicative of the attitude they have, which is that it's essentially an animal farm thing. They became what they set out to defeat. They are now the Westminster bubble elites, and it's we now have to challenge them again.
Are you going to abolish halal food in schools and hospitals? Because there's absolutely no reason why we should be giving into this pressure and paying for it. I don't see why we should do it.
Absolutely right. This is another thing that might cause a little bit of a stir from me. But I believe unstunned slaughter should be banned. We have the idea of a religious exemption to a law is to me utterly, utterly absurd. It says, we think this is terrible, so we're going to ban it, but if you really, really want to do it, that's okay. They're essentially allowing the very people who do it in the first place to still do it. So there should be no religious exemptions to this. All slaughter, I would clean up the meat industry completely. No more unstunned slaughter, whether it be halal or kosher. And I won't have any, arguments about the Jewish community. The Jewish community is just going to have to accept it, just like Muslims are going to have to accept it. We have laws in this country for a reason, and the reason we banned unstunned slaughter is because it was barbaric and the animal suffered. The animal doesn't suffer any less if it's kosher or halal, so I would ban religious slaughter altogether.
Basically, I don't really want to ask a question. I just want to say that as an immigrant that lives in this country, I don't feel threatened by your policies.
You're not supposed to. That's okay.
And I strongly believe any genuine immigrant that cares for
Of
Britain
course.
should basically stand behind you.
Of course, it's about sensible controls in the rest of the country.
I mean, it states in your manifesto that you ban the burqa.
Yeah.
Would you stand by that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've said it before. We don't need to beg to ban the burqa. We are using all the wrong arguments about banning the burqa. There is first of all, there is no right whatsoever to walk around the streets in disguise. There is no such right. There is, however, a right to be safe in the streets. Now, to me, our right to be safe overrules any non-right to wear a cloth over your face. It's absurd. And when we are facing, I don't know if the European elite has noticed this, but a few things have happened in the last few years across Europe in relation to this religion that may raise security issues. Now, the idea that while we're essentially being attacked on a regular basis by adherents of a religion, that we should allow 50% of that religion to disguise themselves in public is beyond a joke. It is beyond a joke. We should never have entertained it.
I fully agree with your analysis about radical Islam, and the problem is getting worse. The logical thing to do then is to stop it getting worse. You quite rightly said 47% of the UK population want to have a ban on further immigration from Muslim countries. You seem reluctant to go down that path. I just wondered why.
No, it's not that I'm reluctant to go down that path. I'm reluctant necessarily yet to put it out there as a bold policy until we have a better grasp of what we're doing with it. We need to really understand how it would work in practice, whether we could do it, what we would need to do in order to do it. I mean, obviously we'd have to get out of the EU, but part of the problem is, for border control, is all these massive arrangements we have with other countries, all these agreements we have. I don't want to go bull in a china shop with such a serious policy. Personally, it is what I want to see happen. We cannot deal with the issues that are here while the borders remain open. It's absurd. So they have to be closed. With such a serious policy, it needs to be handled very carefully, which is what I meant when I said I don't think we need to immediately throw it out there as policy will be destroyed by detail. We need to know those details first. We need to discuss it. We need to get expertise on it. We need to understand how it would work, and then put it as a full, complete, workable policy to the British people. But we shouldn't go in like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, what's your view on Islamic schools? Where I live, there's an Islamic school in the district. They're told they're going to teach British values, but they have the practice of learning the Quran by heart. What are they going to believe?
The Quran. They're going to believe the Quran. They're going to Islamic schools. If and when they teach British values at all, I would really suspect that the most popular British value among Muslims, as far as I can see, is the ability to practice your religion without interference. This is often touted as a British value. I don't think, for example, that they'll be teaching equal rights between men and women, if they teach anything at all. And the problem is that nobody's watching them. Who's going in there to make sure? We need all schools to be regulated, and a big problem is the madrasas in this country, the Quranic schools, no regulation at all.
Yeah,
now,
the Abandi school, there's no contact with the local community. It's actually in the country, and they just built a 3,000-place mosque in a green belt. And I was involved in trying to stop this with those people. There were many objectives, but the council didn't want to be racist.
Well, as usual. Look, we have to take active steps against it. And as a person who believes in a free society, to me it's got to be very serious before you crack down on people's freedoms. But there must come a time when you do. You do not have the freedom to break the law, which is essentially what they're doing. If you look at Sharia councils, they are operating outside the law, completely contrary to the law, and yet we tolerate it. It's intolerable. People say it's a matter of liberty. They're free to live their lives in accordance with Sharia if they want to. No, they are not. No, they are not. Liberty meets law. The law has been democratically decided by the people of this country. Therefore, your liberties are subject to it. So you can't claim the rights and freedoms to do just about everything. So we need to, because that's the main argument, we need to hit back at that. No, you do not have the liberty to break the law. How absurd. How absurd. You live under the laws of this country, or you do have to go. And no different are schools. Schools, Islamic schools, Christian schools, whatever schools, need to be subject to the national curriculum. Of course they can teach their faith within the law, but only within the law. And the madrasas have to go all together. These are extremist factories. They're churning out
Easy one for you, Anne. ID cards, yes or no?
No.
No? I'd have gone yes.
It's a difficult one, but you made me say yes or no. If you'd asked me without putting yes or no on it, I would have given you a different answer. On balance, I lean towards no on libertarian grounds, but on pragmatic grounds, I lean towards yes. I think this is probably one of these issues that needs great scrutiny. My libertarian instinct says no, but I think I could be easily persuaded towards yes, with a decent enough argument. So let's have that debate as a party when I'm leader. Sorry. Okay.
I noticed at the last general election when I voted, just basically I voted open to fraud your electoral processes.
Oh, yeah.
From anonymous voting slips to marking in pencil, constituencies being counted and coming at different times. I think it's a massive concern.
It is a huge concern. We have, particularly among some communities, we have, once again brought political practices and political corruptions from other parts of the world to Britain. So much so that Ladywood in Birmingham had international observers at an election recently. We had to bring, and one of them was from Uganda, which I found really quite turn up for the books. That we have Uganda coming here to monitor our elections, to make sure they're fair. But this is a really very, very serious one. You can't. It's primary to me as a Democrat. To have people just abusing the system like that, to put their own mates essentially into positions of power, is happening on a greater scale than we know about. Get rid of the postal votes first. That has to go. It's a terrible situation, but do we need greater police involvement in elections? I suggest we do. I would suggest we do. Around election time, we need to start put in place something for police to monitor and investigate troubled areas. We really do. It's a sorry situation to be in, but it's hugely important. But we can start with something very, very simple, which is getting rid of the postal votes, because in many states these are filled out in mosques. Postal votes are filled out in mosques.
We not have an electronic
Has to
format
go.
that supports the paper version as well. So you put your pencil on the ballot, the pen on the ballot, and then obviously scan that into some sort of electronic format. So
didn't that cause a few problems in America though? Or is that a different system?
Well, we can but try, can't we?
We can but try. We can but try. We need to do several things, I would have thought. But we need to start with the postal votes. Corruption within political parties, because again a lot of this is illegal. The things that happen within political parties is not just against the party rules, it's against the law of the land. And once again it's not being enforced. What's happening with electoral fraud is a criminal offence, and once again it's not being enforced, so it again comes under law and order. But we do need to seriously take that as a priority. It's a very serious matter, and like I say, we can start off by doing something very simple and getting rid of the postal votes, and I think that will make a big difference. But I also lean towards having some form of monitoring at troubled, constant in polling stations in troubled areas. It's not a massive resource because we only have an election every so often. So I'm thinking it's not a major pressure on police to be there and monitor this properly. It's not an easy one to answer. Okay, I'll take you on the last one, and then we'll all go down the pub.
I've listened to everything you said, and I honestly can't disagree with any of it, and I would support it.
Yeah.
However, what I would like to hear coming from you is how you're going to reform UKIP, because I sit on the regional committee, and I can tell you now, Yorkshire, North Lincolnshire, and I've got a backer here who also sits on the committee, the feeling in Yorkshire and North Lincolnshire is that unless we get some democracy into this party, it's going to completely fall apart. And it's on the cusp now. So I would like to hear what your proposals are to actually do something about it, rather than saying, well, you know, we will have reform.
Well, I mean, I gave some examples of having debates instead of speeches at party conferences. There's got to be accountability for the spokespeople as well, because I'm hearing story after story, I contacted such and such, and I never heard back from them. This is unacceptable, and the party needs to make it very clear that they are there elected by the members, by the public. This is not a gravy train to a glamorous life where you come and get your votes and then go off to Brussels and drink in the nice champagne bars. No, you have a job to do. And if such a thing came in ahead of me, if I saw consistent breach of this from an elected representative or a senior party person, I would take disciplinary action about it. And that message needs to go through as well. But just before this is not it from me. This is simply my introduction. This week I will have a full economic manifesto proposal on my website, and the second one I'll have is UKIP reform in detail. So this isn't it, I promise you. This is an overview. More detailed policies will come, and economics will be on Monday, and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you ever so much, everyone, for coming.